So once I create my background, I'm going to start selecting things to put onto the background. So here's my background, and here's some of my images, and I have a lot more, but just for demo purposes, I'm going to make it kind of quick. So I have just a picture of my beverage here, and I can use any of the selection tools to select it. This is a new tool in Photoshop. It's called Object Selection Tool, and if you just click and drag over your object, it does a really nice job of selecting solid objects. Sometimes it has a little trouble, but I'll show you how to fix that in a sec. Anytime you select something, you want to go up to Select and Mask, and that will really refine the edge. And remember with this, you can look at it on different backgrounds to really kind of see what the edge looks like. So right away, it over selected. So this is the quick selection tool. And the plus sign is going to add to the selection. The minus sign is going to take away. So I need to take some of this away. It does a good job of clinging to the edge of things. So right now, this is pretty solid white because I took it on a white backdrop. So you can see if I were to place it on the orange backdrop, it's going to look pretty unnatural. So in order to kind of play with the opacity of this little wispy brush tool does a really good job of dissolving the edges quite a bit. So you can see if I do this, see how it kind of gets the white edge to go away. So I usually do this on my edge. If you do too much, you can go to the minus and take it away. Sometimes you have to adjust the brush size to make it work well too. So I'm going to actually do this on this area as well. So you can see it'll get rid of some of the stuff in the background. I might have to go back though and subtract it and really get tiny here and bring some of the edges back a bit. So it's kind of like you're going to have to go in and really try to be specific. Like I might have to go like right in here with a little tiny brush and just kind of play with how that's looking. I do want it to be transparent though, but not too transparent. So that might be too much again. I'm going to go back and grab that. Now, anytime you fix the edge, you can smooth it if it's something smooth. You can feather it to make it a little fuzzy. I'm going to bring this back here. Oh, if I did the wrong one, go to minus. That's the label, so I think it would be pretty strongly solid there. The radius will like dissolve the edge a little bit as well. And then I can look at it on different backgrounds now. It looks pretty good. It's almost like an x-ray. And then here. So I think that looks pretty good. So what I'm going to do is there's actually an OK button down here, but I can't see it because my screen is really small on this laptop. So I'm going to hit enter and it will go away. So after I select it and refine the edge, then I can go edit and copy. And then I can go back to my background and I can paste it. Control V, paste it. So from here, if I needed to make some more adjustments, which I might have to, I could go in, I could add a layer mask. Remember a layer mask, if you want to hide part of a layer, you can do that with a layer mask. I could do that with a really soft black paintbrush. And I could go down and kind of I change the opacity so it's really low. And I could slowly start to erase some of this. I'm not going to worry too much because I'm going to add in splashes and things like that. But I'm just slowly kind of fading this with a very, very transparent black fuzzy brush on a layer mask. So I added a mask there. So anytime you want to hide or reveal parts of a layer, that actually looks a little better. Okay, but I'm going to add some splashes on that too. Okay, so I'm going to go back and grab my orange. So the first time I selected, I use this tool, which works really well. The quick selection tool also works really well. You click and drag and see how it clings to the edge. If you do too much, you can hold Alt and it changes to a minus sign and brings it back in. For this, I think I want to include a little bit of that shadow there. Okay, so same thing. I'm selecting it, select and mask. And I'm going to view this. Sometimes I just pull the radius, if it's something like this, to dissolve the edge a little bit. I might go to my wispy tool and kind of paint on the edge of the shadow there, maybe a little along the little edge there. And I'm going to look at it on different backgrounds just to see how that looks. See, that just helps get rid of the white. Okay, sometimes let me get rid of this a little more. Maybe you might feather it just a little. That softens it. Okay, and so that looks good. I'm going to hit enter. Enter. There we go. And then I can copy it. Control C. Control V. And now that's way too big. So I'm going to Control T, which will transform it. And I'm going to get it to size. So this probably would have been easier if I just took the orange with the beverage, like put them together and took that picture. Now I'm going to have to go in, like I can go into the layers in a bit and like adjust these colors. So on this, I can go image adjustments. Let's try hue and saturation. Like I might tweak. I'm on the color of the beverage right now. So look, I can like change these colors a bit later so they look more natural. Image adjustments, hue and saturation. So you've got lots of things that you can do here just to make things look good. And then that shadow looks a little bad. So I'm going to add a layer mask and paint away some of it, blend some of it away. Actually is a little too fuzzy for a shadow. So I could go in close. I'm going to play with the opacity of my brush again. Make it a little higher so it doesn't take so long to erase it. Maybe go in like that, just really carefully. I can get really close up if I wanted to. Okay. So there's that. While I'm at it, I'm just going to pop over, copy this, paste this guy over. And this is where I kind of play with the placement. I'll put him behind there. Oh, that's kind of cool. That was kind of by accident too. So you can move things around there. The splashes, that's going to be important. So for the splash, I'm just going to try to use this object tool each time because it's so easy. And I'm going to do this. And I'm going to select and mask. And with this one, for sure, I'm going to want to paint away with the wispy brush this, because look at that. Makes it super transparent and really, really natural. I'm going to paint all over it so it dissolves the edges a little. I'm on that wispy brush. And I'm going to pull the radius a little too. I could always feather it if this looks weird later. I'm just going to hit enter and get out of this, or hit OK if you can see OK. And then copy, paste, Control T, make this bigger. I can rotate this. I can bring in other splashes. So after bringing this in, I can Control T it. And I can move it in different areas. So Control T will make that. I can make it bigger. I can rotate it, kind of play around with where I want to place it. Hit enter after you Control T and it should sharpen up. You could select this, Control A, selecting the layer it's on, copy and paste it again, Control T. Like you might use the same splash a couple times. When you right click, you can like flip things. In Photoshop, you can look at this, looks totally different now because I've made it bigger. Now when I'm on this one, it's looking funny, you can go in image and adjustments and you can, change maybe the hue and saturation again. There's like this lightness and darkness, like you can darken it if you need to, or maybe saturate it a bit. Maybe play with some of these things just to get it all to look really cohesive. And then, of course, like you might need to move the layers around. Like if I drag this behind, so it goes there. I mean, you can play with the layers opacity as well to kind of play and blend things. Maybe even the opacity of the actual splash needs to go down. And then anything you want to erase, remember, you just can add a layer mask and paint in black to get rid of it in areas. I want it to look like it's coming from behind the logo, I could do that. And my opacity is kind of low, so make it 100%. Just clean it up. So I can just keep going there. One more thing, so I can just keep selecting, copying and pasting different splashes. The last thing is like shadows. If you feel like there needs to be a shadow there and there isn't one there, you can select Control A to select a layer. So I'm selecting the layer with the orange on it. That's the only thing on the layer, so I don't have to select it very carefully. I can just select the whole thing. And then I'm going to copy and paste it. You can take something that you copy and paste and you can fill it with black. So we did this in photo 1 with our surreal scenes. If you go to edit and you go to fill, you can choose black and you have to click this little box. But basically I'm creating a orange shaped shadow and I want to move this below the orange. It's right here. And you'd have to kind of think about the direction of the light and where it would be placed. But I could place it like there and then just turn down the opacity so it's really low. So you could really easily create these little shadows. It's kind of sharp and it just depends on your picture whether it would be sharp or it would be fuzzy. If it's a blurry shadow, you can always create the shadow and go to filter and then blur and then Gaussian blur. That's the one I usually use. Mine totally disappeared, but this will blur it to different degrees as well. If you look at my shadow there, it's going to get a little bit blurrier. Looks a little more natural sometimes. So I can also just add a layer. I'm going to do this for the bottle. And you could use a black paintbrush and you can like paint in shadows too. Like if it just helps to add like a little shadow there. I did it below on a blank layer, added a layer below it. And same thing, I can like really turn down the opacity and then maybe go up to filter and blur again and do Gaussian blur. So it's just slightly there. And I can look at it before. I'm looking under the bottle right now, before and then after. There's just like a tiny little shadow. It kind of helps, like kind of anchors it into the composition. So, and then I'm going to go back and actually play with, I'm going to sample this color orange again and play with the gradient because I'm not quite happy with it. Maybe it would look better. Well, that's already better. So now I could add in more, maybe something dripping over the top, but you get the gist. This is kind of like a good way to build up your composition.